Scarehouse with Lisa and Linnie. I'm your host, Lisa, and with me, of course, is my co-host, Linnie, my long-lost sister.
Yay!
When you come to the Scarehouse, we'll be reviewing 3 movies. We may not always agree, but as lifelong film fanatics, you'll get honest opinions from 2 different sides of the aisle, followed by an old-fashioned knives up, knives down final rating. This week, Linnie and I will be chatting about Wolfcop, Dracula Untold, and Come Out and Play, and all of which are available on Blu-ray and streaming services. So, let's start with Wolfcop, yes?
Yeah, that works for me.
Alright, holy hell, here comes the fun! Lou Garou, yes, that's his name, is an alcoholic cop who blacks out and he wakes up as a werewolf. Written and directed by Lowell Dean, Wolfcop is a wackadoo mashup of camp, gore, humor, liquor, and donuts, and I loved it. Linnie.
I enjoyed it. It's very B-movie, very 80s. I like it in the way that I like all of those kind of 80s B-movies. It's like that, oh, okay, yeah, I dig this. I can't say I would watch it all the time. The sex scene is a little much for me.
You didn't like that?
I mean, it's, as much as you can like a sex scene between a fake old woman and a werewolf. It's intense. It's long. It's really long. That's what I remember most. But yeah, I mean, the effects are not that great. I think with all the build-up and how great a lot of the press was and the posters and everything, I was expecting the actual transition scene and the actual makeup effects to be a lot better. But that being said, again, it's a B movie. You kind of get what you pay for in terms of the effects. But the acting's better than it probably has a right to be. And it's Wolfcop. I mean, it's a movie about a cop that's a wolf. So it's kind of hard to kind of knock it down in any way. You get exactly what you sit down for. So what did you enjoy about it?
I think what I enjoyed is it's exactly as advertised, wolf cop. It really can't get any more explicit than that. He's a cop. He's a wolf, and he has superpowers when he drinks alcohol, which clearly I enjoyed that.
Yeah, if only that were real.
Yeah, I mean, we all want to, be superpowered when we drink too much liquor, but it knows its place, and it knows it's silly, and it reveled in that, and I liked it, and, the story of the scene of the wolf transformation preceded itself, so unless you've been living under a rock, you see all of Lou Garou change, and that does include his penis. It didn't disappoint. And, yeah, the sex scene was excruciatingly long, and as I realized talking to some people on Twitter last night, this is unfortunately not the first time I've watched a werewolf and a woman have sex, so I'm not really sure what that says about the horror community, but maybe that's why we were bored. We'd seen it too many times before.
Maybe. I think there's an undercurrent of bestiality to all werewolf films, though. I mean, Michael J. Fox is a werewolf. He's still cute little Michael J. Fox. You still want to squeeze him.
Well, but yeah, I mean, you can't get rid of the cute on that guy.
Right. Oliver Reed. I would do him either way. Well, not now, because he is dead, but back then, yes. Either way. Wolf or human would have been fine. So, I think it's definitely exactly what it sets out to be. And they are also very committed filmmakers. They are very fan-oriented. There's a sequel coming. I think there was a sequel approved before the movie even came out, which usually drives me crazy, but in this case, okay. I don't think you can ever have enough Wolfcop.
I don't think you can, especially because it is done well for what it is. Actually, I was impressed with the effects. They're not spectacular, but for the level of movie it is, I thought that they were actually really good.
Yeah, it's when you compare it to, there's American Werewolf in London, which is kind of the gold standard, but then something you'd see on Sci-Fi. This definitely falls somewhere in the middle. It's, on a budget, it's definitely not bad. And plot-wise, again, it's fairly original. I can't say I've ever seen anything with this plot before.
That's true.
I mean, Wolfcop, it's right there. I can't believe nobody's ever thought of it before.
It's true, and I can't believe nobody's ever thought of a liquor and donut store before, because I would go there every day.
No kidding. That is a really good idea.
That's such a great idea. And the drink and shoot, that's why doesn't every town have one of those? Everybody should drink too much and go shoot things.
I think we have that in the South.
I would imagine so.
Yeah. I think that's just implied, though. I think it's assumed that when you go to a shooting range, you're kind of liquored up.
Really? That's sad.
Yeah. It's just assumed.
It's just, it's funny, there's a little montage where, the wolf makes a car, and then just when you think they thought of everything, the credits roll, and there's a Wolfcop rap, and it's the best thing ever.
How did I missed that.
You missed it. It's from Evil Ebenezer. That's his name. He's a white rapper out of Canada, and he wrote a song about Wolfcop, and it's the best thing ever.
Maybe I caught that the first time and just missed it the second time.
Well, you didn't I immediately went online and downloaded it. It's rad. It's super rad. So,
oh, wow.
I found this movie to be fun, although it definitely has its limitations. It's not going to win any awards that are legitimately, it's not going to win an Oscar.
Hey, Wolfcop went to Cannes, so.
Whoa. Well, yeah. Did it win, best campy horror movie ever?
No, and I'm pretty sure it didn't win Palme d'Or either, so.
Oh.
So, good on them for going.
It was fun, though. I really appreciated it, and I'll be all over the sequel, and I'm kind of sad that I didn't get to see this in theater. So.
Yeah, I don't remember it actually playing around here, which doesn't surprise me. I don't imagine that it made it to this area of the country, but it was in the bigger cities. I know that.
Yeah.
So I can definitely see this being a midnight movie in the future, a very cult-like classic, and good on them for knowing their audience and really just hitting that one home, because they did a great job.
Yeah, you just summed it up perfectly. They know their audience, and that's great. Sometimes that's all you want, and I could absolutely see this being a drinking game movie, and it would be a good night. So.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Oh, I know. I definitely give it one knife up, and you...
One knife up? Because why the hell not? It's Wolfcop.
Well, yeah, there's a Wolfcock and the Wolfcop, so 2 knives up.
There you go. A ringing endorsement from both sides.
All right.
So, second up is Dracula Untold, which recently came to Blu-ray and DVD and Netflix, because that's how I watched it. So this is an origin story of Dracula, and as his kingdom is being threatened by the Turks, this is according to IMDb, young Prince Vlad must become a monster feared by his own people in order to obtain needed power to protect his own family and the families of his kingdom. So, Lisa, I know you love this movie. Tell me why.
I love this movie because A, Luke Evans,
mm-hmm.
B, Dracula.
Mm-hmm.
I liked that it was actually something different. I don't feel like we've seen this origin story before, and I liked that it felt new without trying to reinvent the wheel.
Right.
And I also, rewatching it today, I did see it in the theater, and I do think that it's one of those films that loses some of its luster when you watch it at home.
Okay.
Because seeing it in the theater with it being very big and wonderful and epic, and with the amazing, bat scenes that he turns into, that really loses a lot of the impact on
I could see that.
Yeah, so today that kind of bummed me out. So my love for it was in the theater, and for me, I felt like if Game of Thrones and a horror movie had a baby, it would be Dracula Untold. So I really liked it, and also because I didn't expect much from it, so I was very pleasantly surprised.
No, that's fair. I think I went into it wanting to like it too much, which was probably part of the problem. Because I do love Luke Evans, like any red-blooded female does. I can't imagine anybody doesn't. And actually, I really like Dominic Cooper as well, who plays the enemy, the leader of the Turk army. And Charles Dance is fantastic, who's kind of the original vampire that bites Vlad and sets the whole thing in motion. So I had a really great cast, but for me, it was just really dull. Like for all of the CGI and all the big, beautiful set pieces and the great story, I felt no chemistry between Luke Evans and the woman playing his wife, which could be a dozen different factors. But there was no chemistry. There, just for me, it felt like there was really nothing at stake because we all know where it's headed. So I kind of couldn't get invested in the story. And it felt very hollow. And I kind of wanted to be more emotionally invested in all of it. And by the time it got to the end, it felt like it ended very suddenly. I was expecting something a little bit more in depth in terms of the ending, but the ending is very abrupt. And I don't know if they were hoping to turn this into a franchise or not. I don't know if I see that happening. I mean, it did pretty well in the theaters, I guess, because it came out in October. But I don't know. It really left me feeling empty when it was over. And it's a great story, and I think it could have been a great story if it was something other than Dracula. So as an origin story, it kind of works, but as a Dracula story, it didn't connect with me on that level. So, I don't know.
Well, I do think we're setting it up as a franchise, and I do think that this movie did not get enough recognition when it was in the theater.
Right.
I don't remember what other movie came out in October that stole its thunder, but this should have been the Halloween blockbuster of 2014.
I want to say it came out the same time as Gone Girl.
No, it was another horror movie that took the shine off of it.
Really?
Because I remember being really cranky about it, and maybe having angry tweets that people were watching something else. Or maybe I'm making crap up, but it's just the movie that you go see in October. It's a big movie. It's beautiful on the screen. And I do agree with you that there was no chemistry between the two of them, but I guess I didn't care because we all, as you said, know what's going to happen.
Right.
And Luke Evans is just charismatic enough that I can ignore the fact that his wife was whatever. And then we do have Charles Dance, who is in fact in Game of Thrones.
Right.
And who doesn't love that guy? And Dominic Cooper is an undervalued actor who I think gets put into the pretty category, and they don't utilize him because if anybody's seen The Devil's Double, this kid can act.
Oh yeah, he's been in a lot of movies where he's really good. Odd 6 Degrees of Separation thing. Both Luke Evans and Dominic Cooper are in the only two movies I like from the WWE, but they're different movies. So very strange. Yeah, well, Dominic Cooper was in Dead Man Down, which is really good, and he's quite likable in it, even though he's kind of a sleazebag, but still likable.
Well, I'll have to watch that then, because after watching Dracula Untold, I did indeed watch No One Lives again.
Yeah, I love that movie.
There's really not enough Luke Evans in life, and
yeah, he surprisingly has not made that many films.
No.
He's really not been in that much. I think maybe The Hobbit took up a bunch of time, so I guess that could be why.
Doesn't it take like 50 years to make all those movies?
They make them back to back, so I think it might be like a year and a half commitment where you don't really have time to do anything else, but that's a lifetime when you're an actor. It takes up a significant amount of time. So, but yeah, he hasn't really been in that much. And now he's definitely not in the Crow remake, which was the only thing that was kind of intriguing me about that being okay.
That was the only redeeming quality about that being a thing, because Luke Evans was really invested, and he really wanted to stay true to the book.
Yeah,
so,
well, he dropped out. Yeah.
But it's a popcorn movie. It's grand.
Yeah.
It's beautiful to look at. The score is lovely. There's, cool costumes, and it's, it is what it is, and I enjoyed it, but I absolutely can see how you could feel that it was hollow and boring.
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. I'm trying to think of another story that it could have been an origin for other than Dracula, because it felt like that the Dracula stuff was secondary to the leading a kingdom, to fighting an epic battle. Like, I thought that stuff was really interesting, but the Dracula, the vampirism, it was all kind of unnecessary, and I felt like it actually took away from what was making it interesting. So, for me, I would have actually preferred if it had been anything else. So, I don't know. I literally cannot think of anything else it could have been a story for, but I'm sure there's some superhero out there it could have worked for.
We can just make one up, and then you will change your rating. But until then, I take it this is a knife down for you.
It is indeed. Yeah, I probably will not watch that movie again.
Well, clearly it's a knife up for me. I saw it in the theater, and I watched it again today. And I'll watch it tomorrow. I don't care.
So it's a split rating on Dracula Untold.
Yes.
And now for the film that will probably take up the bulk of this show, Lisa.
Here we are, the third film, Come Out and Play. Now, despite this information not being in any of the promotional material for this film, it is indeed a remake of the 1976 Spanish film Who Can Kill a Child. That is based on a novel that I'm not even going to try to pronounce because I'm not bilingual, because I'm classically American like that. So, Mexican director Machina, who goes by one name, and nobody knows anything about this guy. He even on set wears a red bag over his head and tries to direct peripherally. Like, he tries to not even be on set while he directs his films. So this guy, with the one name, if you look up Come Out and Play, it says that he wrote, directed, and, did everything. I think he even did craft services on this film. But when it comes down to it, really, it's just a straight-up remake of Who Can Kill a Child. So, for me, clearly, I found it to be unnecessary. And I do kind of take some pride in trying, being open-minded with remakes, so I found this to be absolutely, completely unnecessary. The story of a young couple, the woman's expecting a baby, they go on vacation, and, they happen to end up on an island that's inhabited by murderous children, and so it is a legitimate conundrum, because if the child's killing you, how can you kill a child? What would you do about it? It's the same movie.
Yeah, it is. It's almost shot for shot the same movie. That's straight up, like, psycho bold. Like, you think that you are so good that you can do the exact same movie a second time and somehow make it better. But Gus Van Sant is Gus Van Sant, whereas until we talked about this before, I was not aware that this guy is apparently some sort of kook, which I'm sorry, this is like Shia LaBeouf crazy. And yeah, like, you have never made any other movie before or after. That takes a lot of balls to do a shot-for-shot remake.
Well, okay, so here's my biggest problem. Even though it is a pretty much shot-for-shot remake, the amount of gore is quite a bit heightened from the original, and I think that actually detracts monumentally from the overall intention of the story.
Yeah, at first I was going along with it, and I was like, okay, so this isn't actually that violent. I was really expecting it to be way more gory, and I was on board. And then all of a sudden, of course, it gets really violent and insane, and there's blood everywhere, and All right, well, that was typical. So I kind of stopped paying attention at that point. And to begin with, I'm not fond of the actors in this film. Vanessa Shaw stars as the pregnant wife, and I can't for the life of me remember the name of the actor. Eben something.
I have no idea. I didn't care if I didn't care that they were, spoiler alert, gonna die.
Yeah, well, again, I mean, either movie, you know that that's the case. So, but yeah, it's kind of the same problem with the Psycho remake. It's that it's the same movie again, but you're not adding anything to it. You're just actually detracting from it by modernizing it in a way that's unnecessary. I don't know.
Completely unnecessary. For me, the reason Who Can Kill a Child works is because you don't see much.
Right.
It's really genuinely creepy and unnerving to see an island of small children being really homicidal and awful.
Right. Now, here's what I don't remember, because it has been 10 years since I saw the original. Do they explain why the children are murderous?
No, and I think that's also why it's creepy.
Right, and so, but in the sequel, they explain, or the remake, they explain that it's some sort of illness.
Yeah, and then they have those moments of where the kids are looking deeply into one another's eyes, which is passing this virus.
Right, so it's like Children of the Corn, basically. Yeah.
Yeah, and so, the scenes where, in the original, where they come upon dead bodies, that children are kind of hanging out around them and playing around the body. But there's no guts all over the place, whereas in this new one, the kids literally have their hands in the bodies, and they're playing with the innards, and they're laughing and giggling, and that just made it shocking in not an effective way for me.
Right.
It was like, oh, whatever. I mean, one of the kids even makes a Daryl Dixon ear necklace, okay?
That's the first thing I thought of when she did that. It's like, wow, that's a lot. And it is. The movie's shot so as you never actually see the children committing the violent act. It is kind of clever in that way, clever in a sneaky way. This is not a compliment in any means. But it's like you see the hammer go up in the child's hand, and then the hammer comes down on an old man's head. But you never actually see the children committing the acts. So in that way, it's disconnecting the act from the child doing it. But it's all making it... It's keeping you as a viewer from feeling any connection to the children doing these things. So unless you're really creeped out by the sight of blood and children giggling constantly, you never really get that emotional connection or the visceral feeling that you got from the original. It's very strange. Like, the whole way the movie is directed is just odd. And the way the movie opens as well was very odd.
The movie opens was stupid.
I don't know. I couldn't figure out what they were doing. Like, he's just walking around asking random people for a boat. Like, I don't know. The whole first 20 minutes, I almost turned it off because it's so strange. Like,
and I guess, really, we shouldn't say it's a shot-for-shot remake, because I don't feel like the first film, I was in from the word go.
Yeah, the original has that crazy opening explaining the history of children dying in the world, which is really, really upsetting. Like, you're immediately invested in what's happening in this film because you're so upset instantaneously, and the remake doesn't do that at all. And I don't know. Unless I guess some women, men, whatever, are really bothered by the pregnant women in peril movies. It has to be a very specific kind of movie for that to alone be enough for me to stress out over a film. And this did not do it at all. Versus the original, which manages to completely stress me out. So I don't know. It's for a movie that is really very similar to its source material. It's truly lacking in effective scares and that visceral fear that the original had.
I absolutely agree, and my biggest problem with that is that this, man with one name thinks that, he's, I don't know, recreated the most amazing thing. And, you read interviews and he says, what does he say? He says, we must remember that we are made of blood, and an old proverb says, it is better to murder during time of plague. And I would say the same when we talk about cinema. I mean, what does that even mean? He wears this mask. He wears this mask when he writes. It's his filmmaking persona. If you can go on YouTube and look up an interview with him, and he will be speaking wearing this mask. And he says that he's becoming isolated, so he has to film with people. He doesn't even know if he could be on set again. So as of right now, it's just come out and play that he has the film, that he actually was able to, be around people long enough to direct. But he's allegedly writing a film, wearing his mask while he's doing it, about animals becoming suddenly self-aware, but they can't communicate since they believe they are alone. And he plans to do this with a few animals, he's encountered while living in the forest.
What the hell?
And he really wants to try to make a movie where he's not even on set.
What's he going to do, Skype in?
I don't know. Well, then why do you have to wear a mask if you're not on set anyway?
Good Lord.
So, clearly, I don't know, maybe he's just so over my head that I just can't appreciate what he's doing, but on the other side of that, if he, is this amazing brainiac, he should have been able to come up with his own movie.
Exactly. There should have been a better end product if he's not just a gimmick, and this definitely all feels very gimmicky as opposed to something conducive to actual good filmmaking. Like, if you're a good filmmaker, you don't need all of these bells and whistles. That's just ridiculous.
Well, and I think the most upsetting thing about it for me is that he doesn't acknowledge that it's a remake. So there's going to be people who watch this movie and they aren't going to know that they could watch a better version of it. That to me is offensive. That is what makes people mad about remakes.
Yeah, and exactly. Because if you go on IMDb, all it shows, I think, is the story that it's based on, like the actual book. Mm-hmm. But I don't think it says anything about the original film.
It does in some places, but like if you just look up him in this movie, it'll say he did everything.
Wow. Yeah, I have a feeling there's a little bit of egomania floating around in there as well. It
just annoys me, because I always try to think, when people do remakes, I say, well, maybe it's good because then it'll force people to go to the original source material, and that'll open up a whole new world of movie experiences for you. But this guy isn't even doing that. It would be like if, Aja was like, yeah, I totally wrote the entire story of Maniac. I made all this up. It's all my idea.
Yeah, usually that gets you sued. So
yeah,
I think people are just afraid of this guy, and they're like, nah, not worth it. I'm just gonna leave him alone.
That's my big problem with the movie, that this guy is clearly not someone I want to have a cup of coffee with, and they put excessive gore for absolutely no reason and added nothing. In fact, it detracted from what I think is actually a really great concept.
One thing I will say, though, I really enjoyed the score.
Oh, okay, yes.
If we want to pick one thing out of this movie that is actually not terrible, the score was interesting. Very strange, and it was the only thing that kept me engaged when the movie got boring, is all of a sudden this very interesting score popped in. I was like, oh, okay, this is keeping me awake. I'm going to keep watching this. So, whoever did that, I'm sure it wasn't him. He might claim it was him, but...
I'm sure he did. I mean, he does everything.
Apparently. So, regardless, I think we both agree that's probably 2 knives down for Come Out and Play.
I think that's 2 epic knives down for Come Out and Play.
Yeah, I agree.
Alright. Well, thank you, Darklings, for joining us for episode 3 of the Silver Screen Scarehouse. Blah, 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 Silver Screen Scarehouse. I'm a professional. If you'd like to chat with us about movies we reviewed today, you can find Linnie on Twitter.
I'm at Linnie Loohoo, LINNIELOOWHO.
Or you can find me on Twitter at LCFREMONT. If you have a movie you'd like for us to queue up in Scarehouse, drop us a comment and let us know on Twitter. Stay stabby, kids!